Most side hustlers don't come into their new business holding marketing plans. In fact, we probably haven't thought about marketing much at all. My guess is flower farm side hustlers are no different than that. We really just want to grow pretty flowers, right?
What we're sharing today is geared toward beginning flower farmers who want to sell locally. If you have already been growing flowers and you just need to scale your production, our thoughts, advice, whatever might be a little different. But for today, we're talking to you if you're a beginning flower farmer and want to figure out how to sell your flowers.
So our tips for selling to a retail crowd. We're not going to be talking about wholesale flower sales. This is selling to a retail customer. So not everybody is your ideal customer. There are some people who would never pay you $25 for flowers, and there are other people that will drive out of their way and drive far to get some of your flowers. Just keep in mind that if somebody tells you you're too expensive, they're not your ideal customer. You're obviously going to need some ideal customers to sell your flowers, but there's people who are going to try to discourage you. Just don't listen to them. So then along with that, figure out who your ideal client is and start talking to them. Because if you start apologizing for, how much stuff costs or whatever, you're not talking to your ideal client. You need to be confident and talk to the person who wants to buy your flowers.
Let's talk a little bit about how we found our ideal client, because we can talk about finding your ideal client, but until you actually hear someone's experience, it's hard to say like, oh, I could do this. Yeah. And how we did that was we kind of wrote what we'd call an avatar, just sort of described them in our minds. And then as we were, posting to Instagram, thinking about how to market, whatever, we think about this person and like, what would they want? What would they buy? And it just helped to kind of guide us a little bit.
And fun fact, we have two different avatars.
Right.
We have one for our local products, and our avatars might actually be kind of different now because we're selling in different areas.
Yeah.
I have not actually wrote up my avatar for this area. I don't know if it's that important. But we have one, and we actually gave them a name.
Yeah.
We wrote out the description of, what they like, what their interests are. We're just imagining this. What they're willing to spend money on, their hobbies, their family size. I don't know. We got really specific on it. There's one for selling flowers locally, and then we made one for our online presence, for YouTube and whatever. Two different avatars, actually. But the funny thing is, there's a bit of overlap there. They're usually middle-aged women. So if you're a middle-aged woman, we got you.
But I think part of what helped us set our avatar was didn't we go on our Instagram and maybe YouTube?
We used the demographic tools,
right.
Yeah, that they had on Instagram.
We just went and looked to see who is actually interested in our stuff.
We weren't shooting blind. Yeah, we took some of the information we had and then just built on that. And, we have people from all walks of life that are interested.
Right.
It's not just that specific person,
right.
But that's who we're talking to. And it kind of clarifies it in our mind.
Yeah. And then where do you find your customers? You can have an avatar, you can have an idea, but then where do you find these customers? Several things you can do is set up a farm stand, especially if you have traffic that goes past your place, or put it in a high traffic place, put it that way. You can sell at a local store. And if you do either of these, we'd suggest that you brand everything. Put your name, your contact information, all of that on each bouquet that you sell. So those are places to get out in front of people, because that's really what you want to do. If you want to find your customer, you just kind of have to cast a net. Find as many places that you can get in front of people to see what is selling and what do they want.
Right. And that you may not sell every bouquet every week, and that's okay. That's not actually the goal. You want to sell as many as possible, but the goal is to get your name out there so people think of you when they need, flowers for an event, if this is what you want to do. But we would do like birthdays, events, funerals, just random bouquets. People would put orders in. It was the way to get the word out about what we did.
Right.
And we never went so far as to do a CSA. I think we were planning to, but life interfered then. But that is one way to get a CSA list built up, where people subscribe and get bouquets from you every week.
Right.
So you have to get your product out there in front of people. And one way to do that is what Rosita mentioned: farm stands, stores, whatever. So that's basically what we did when we were gardening together in Ohio. There was a local bulk food store that we took flowers to. We did also pop-up shops, but that basically was the way to get the word out.
Right.
We didn't sell out every week. There was weeks we sold 1 or 2 bouquets. You're not going to be a sensational overnight success, probably. But the point is to get your product in front of people.
Yeah. Along with getting your product in front of people, social media is such a big thing these days. And so I think that's honestly where we built a little bit of traction, was just being consistent.
We started with that.
Right. Showing all the behind the scene things and just getting the information out that we actually have something to sell. We also think it's a good idea to niche down. You don't have to try to sell everything. You don't have to be everything to all men. Pick a few things that you're comfortable making, maybe a market bunch, a vase bouquet, for several different scenarios you might get requests for, but you don't have to offer everything. You don't have to offer weddings right off the bat or, all the things that a florist does. Pick a few things and try to do them well.
So one question everybody's going to have when you go to sell your flowers is, what should I price it at? We've struggled with that over the years too. It's something you almost have to wrestle with and find the sweet spot. You've heard people say, probably, don't price too cheap, which we would agree with that. We've also found if you charge too much, you probably won't sell very many flowers. And so it's finding that sweet spot. One good strategy for this would be to offer at least 2, maybe 3 different price points at your stand or wherever you're selling your flowers. You want to price your main offering, which is the thing you want to move the most of, maybe your market bunch. Price that for what you need to have, and then say that's $20 or $25. And then you have a more expensive, a deluxe bouquet, that would be maybe $40, $45. And then you could do a larger vase arrangement or whatever. I mean, this is just ideas, but it'd be more like $60 or $65. And what that does is that makes the value of the market bunch go up. Like, people think this is a pretty good price for this. It's less of an idea of here's something cheaper if you can't afford the good bouquet, and more giving them an idea of what your flowers are actually worth.
Along with all of that, there's times when people do want to spend more. Let's say an anniversary. I know we got a couple anniversary or I'm sorry requests, and there was a dollar amount specified, and then we had to come up with a bouquet that we felt was fair for that. So
there was almost not an urn big enough in the studio.
So keep that in mind too. Have some smaller offerings, but be prepared for a big order if you get something. If someone wants to spend 150 or 200 bucks on a bouquet, kind of have something that you can quickly whip out for that as well.
It was helpful for us to create a price list, and you can put this on your website or wherever, have something to send to people when they want to order flowers from you, other than what you're selling at the store.
Because I remember in the beginning when people would give us orders, it would be like, how much is that? And we'd be like, well, but then once we had decided we have these 3 price points, and we could say we have this for this, we have this for this, or this, for this price. Yeah. And they could quickly make up their mind which one they wanted.
So when I moved to Arkansas, different people told me that people probably aren't going to buy flowers around here. They didn't mean to discourage me. It was just, that's the way this community is. But I still believe there probably would be some. So I was going to try it. And the first year I marked my bouquets probably a little too low. I had different local people tell me you need to charge more. But I made them smaller on purpose, so I wasn't losing money. And then I also had a cheaper option, which was a jar of flowers, just a small jar. It was a way that I could use up the shorter stems and all that, use all the flowers. But the next year I did put my prices up, and the flowers still sold. I'm not necessarily recommending to do that, but that's just kind of how I tested the market to see what people were willing to pay, and that's kind of what I came up with.
Right, and I think in the beginning you just kind of have to do that. You have to take a couple stabs in the dark before you have information to adjust your prices or your offerings.
Right. I mean, ideally everybody should be charging $25 to $30 a bunch, but are people going to pay it? If you charge that and don't sell a single bouquet, you don't make as much money or any money.
Right. It's so dependent on where you are and what people are willing to spend. People in a big city can probably get more for a bouquet than we can in a rural area. Because a lot of the people around here are probably growing their own flowers,
Right.
And unless I'm offering something unique.
Everybody's got zinnias.
Right. And then a very obvious point would be to make attractive bouquets. Another question to ask yourself is, would I buy this? The opposite side of that is sometimes what sells in your area is maybe not your first pick of a bouquet. So you kind of have to, you have to hold that loosely. But still, I think making something that you think is beautiful is probably going to sell better than something that you just your heart isn't in it.
If you're selling purple and yellow, you can make a pretty purple and yellow bouquet. Like, make that attractive. It's not either one of our favorite colors to put together, but people love purple and yellow. Yeah. We actually did make a video about how to plan pretty bouquets by season. I think it's a pretty good one, but it's only available to the channel members here on YouTube. There's 2 levels. One is just channel supporter, seedling supporter, I guess, $2.99 or $3.99 a month. And the next one is, I forget how much, but it's a little bit more, but you get access to a bunch of other videos, bonus videos on there. And so that video is part of that. So if you want to become a channel sponsor, there you go. The cool thing is you will become known for a certain look to your bouquets. And I would try to stick with that. I mean, you can obviously do whatever you want, but if you become known for that look, just do that then. I love sort of pastel bouquets, white bouquets, very tastefully done things. But I've heard that bright, hot colors sell better. So I tried some of those last year, planned for them, made the bouquets. I don't actually know if one sold better than the other, the pastels or the hot rods, I call them. But they sold pretty good. So I've had to learn not to be so snobbish about my color combinations.
Along with that, like, it's not just the colors you're picking, it's all the elements you put in the bouquet. So we like that really lush, full garden look. That's a style of its own. What type of flowers, everything else you put in with your bouquet besides just the colors help to define your style.
So earlier when we were talking about talking to your ideal customer, what we meant was, talking to them on social media or wherever, like gear your posts and all that to your avatar. What you want to do is inspire people to buy. You don't want to just be like, here, buy my flowers. Please buy these. They're for sale today. Most of us are exhausted from growing the flowers, from weeding, from harvesting, from arranging, so that the inspiring is pretty much an afterthought. We don't have time for that. A few ideas for how you could do that maybe is make a bouquet and display it attractively in your home somewhere and take a good picture of it. Get your reluctant husband to take photos of you holding your flowers. I have stories I could tell. Like armloads of flowers or whatever, like just beautiful, inspiring pictures. You want to make people think, I gotta have that. So any way you can do that is pretty good marketing, I think.
And then on your social media, if you have a picture, share either a story, maybe something that happened on your flower farm or wherever, or even just a story or a quote or anecdote that doesn't have anything to do with flower farming. Make it personal. People want to see who is behind the flowers. Be authentic. Tell stories about yourself, your flower farm, the things that happen.
Tell the good and the bad.
Right.
Don't just stick with the good stuff. True behind the scenes says a little bit of both.
People will connect when they see you being your authentic self.
That's probably if you take nothing else away from this video, take that little bit away. So in that vein, let's tell some stories about ourselves. We have a few little marketing stories here. They're not really stories, but just stuff that we've done that worked for us or didn't work for us. One of our venues in the early days was a beautiful little boutique that only opened once a month, and it was about an hour and a half away. I think she had reached out and wondered if we would bring some bouquets. So we said, okay, we'll do that. And then we just planned to drop them off, spend the day shopping in the area, and then go back and pick up our stand. We dropped them off, went to a coffee shop, and before we left, she called and said, come, your bouquets are sold out. We were like, what?
That was the first time,
we didn't know if we'd sell any of them.
Yeah.
Right. But I think what we did right that time was, they didn't always sell out. We did it several times.
Right.
I think maybe, they usually sold pretty good.
Right.
But what we did right was to post about it on Instagram.
And it was an area that we knew we had a lot of Instagram followers. So I think that also helped. We've also hosted pop-up shops where we only sold one bouquet, like just on our farm. So probably there we should have let people know ahead of time. Go ahead.
Yeah, it was marketing that didn't happen.
There's not a sellout story for every attempt we've made to sell flowers.
No.
In fact, you and I both have, like, even in our new communities, I know there was one time I took bouquets to a local grocery store here, and I think I sold one bouquet. And I figured out later it was an employee of the store.
I'm pretty sure that happened a couple times in Ohio, too. An employee took pity.
Right.
And I think it's happened here in Arkansas as well. Pity buys. We love them.
It's okay. Some you win, some you lose.
Yeah, again, the point is to get your flowers out there so people know that you have flowers for sale.
Right.
We took bouquets to a local store in Ohio for a while. And even if we didn't sell out, it was important to us to be consistent. That way people knew they could depend on them to be there.
Right.
You have to go into it with the mindset that consistency is key and it's exposure that you're after. Then here in Arkansas, I have decided to go every other week until it got too hot to put the flowers outside. It just wasn't good business anymore. But then the Facebook page for that business, it was a bakery, would always post when I had flowers there. So people knew, as long as they know they're going to be there,
right.
I think you'll sell quite a few.
Right. In the beginning, I would say we got a lot of our orders, just like random orders from Instagram or Facebook. People who wanted our stuff were hanging out there, and we tried to post fairly consistently It would be behind the scenes stuff, you know, us making bouquets. I don't know. Just look back at old Instagram pictures. Who knows what all we posted.
A lot of stories.
Right.
We put a lot of time into stories back then.
Yeah, you did. LaRonda did this very consistently. If I'm showing up in the pictures a lot, it's because LaRonda was the one who was like, we got to get on there. We got to tell stories. And it paid off. That was helpful for us to get started.
And I think your super fans come from your social media too, because they've seen behind the scenes. They've seen the story behind the flowers.
Right.
I think one thing we've learned with trying to sell in different communities and different places in the communities is if you put your flowers in a high traffic area, they're just going to do a lot better.
Right.
For me, that was the local bakery that gets a lot of out-of-town traffic on the weekends. I'd have my flowers there on the weekends. Maybe that wasn't quite as successful for you there, but that it might not have been as high traffic. I don't know.
But it did help get my name out. Like I didn't sell as many bouquets, and you know, I'd bring a bunch home usually, but I did get a big order then for like a wedding. It was that they just wanted a bunch of farm bunches, and they were going to take them and put them into their own vases for a wedding. So I got the word out that I'm here. And now I didn't go last year, so I only did that 1 year. So I'm curious to see, you know, if I could try to sell again this year, will people still remember, still want it? I don't know. I'm excited to try.
We are great at being consistent for a year, and then life always interferes somehow. Like, I'm having a baby this year, so I'm paring back a little bit, which I kind of hate it for, you know, I wanted to show up again, like consistently at the bakery, but there will always be next year.
Right.
We can pick it up again.
Right.
There's probably more that could be said about how to market your flowers as a flower farmer, especially a side hustle flower farmer. So if you have more tips, just add them to the conversation below.